All right, I am live now. So those of you that have logged on so far, we'll give a little bit of time for people to get going. And I have a great guest today. It's Josh Elledge from Up Your Influence. And I'll get right to the point. The purpose of the show is to talk everything about real estate investing, about branding. And this is going to be a great show that I hope as many people watch as possible, because Josh is an expert in how to become more of an influencer, how to put yourself out there, and how to get noticed. So I'm going to bring Josh in right now, and we're going to kind of take our time here to let people log on. But Josh, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. So we'll kind of take some time. Did you get a chance to repost the link?
Oh gosh, yes, no, that's right. You told me to do that. So I have to tell you, first, I'm going to start off by saying how much of a LinkedIn rock star, Noel, you are. Everyone knows it. I'm just the elephant in the room. Noel, you are my LinkedIn. If I could emulate one person on LinkedIn doing it right, it's you. So yeah, let me grab that right now.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time. And I really appreciate it. It's been a journey, and I'm learning constantly. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is to be able to constantly be getting new ideas. LinkedIn's changing on a daily basis, and I'm finding people who are very successful. And, I join these. There's a couple of people that'll put out these LinkedIn challenges randomly, and I'll join those challenges. And it's a challenge to post every day. And what that does, it just spreads more, gets more people seeing what you're doing. So it's great. I love doing it. And what you've been doing is amazing too. So, we'll kind of get into that. I'd like to hear your story, and we can talk about my story and go a little deeper than just what you're doing to promote yourself. I like to hear your story, because that's so interesting, and people love to hear the story. So why don't we start with just kind of giving your quick elevator pitch, and then a little bit more beyond that.
So actually the name of our company is Up My Influence.
I'm sorry.
Not Up Yours. So that joke was not planned, by the way. That was completely unintentional.
Yeah, I guess no pun intended.
No. So right out of high school, I joined the U.S. Navy, and I was actually a Navy journalist for 5 years, and I did video news. I wasn't necessarily very good at it, but I did 1 year of radio, in fact. So I was stationed out in the Aleutian Islands on a spy base back toward the Cold War kind of tapered off. So I was one of the last ones to be stationed there before they closed the base down. But I was actually a radio station DJ for my last year in the military. So not necessarily, tip of the spear, lobbing grenades or anything like that. I was spinning records. Speak of that, though, I actually did meet, if you remember the movie Good Morning Vietnam.
Absolutely.
I met Adrian Cronauer, and he actually had a very, very lasting impact on me, because his main message was that, we're in the military, but sometimes, if this is kind of the point of his movie too, it's like you have to fight the powers that be to truly advocate for your audience. Your audience is who you serve. And you always have to put them first. And if you'll do that, you'll always win. It might not be easy, but it's the right thing to do. And so that really inspired me and kind of directed a lot of my activity moving forward. I ended up starting a number of small businesses, including writing a blog before blogs were even a thing. Started a small town newspaper. That was not a good business to start. But eventually, after about 6 business failures, lost 2 homes, 1 personal bankruptcy, I started a company called Savings Angel. And when I started it, I had no money to advertise, but I knew that exposure is everything. You can have the best business idea in the world, and if people don't know about you, then you're not going to be in business for very long. And so that was, where I was up against. And there was a point where, right after launching this, that, I mean, I just didn't have enough money for my bills. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go again. And so I got a lucky break. And that was because I had reached out to every TV station, radio station, newspaper, magazine, anyone I could that had an audience. And I said, listen, I don't have money to pay for your ads, but could we try doing a segment together? And I had a radio station that showed mercy on me. And so they let me do a segment. And I earned enough in that 3-minute radio segment to pay my heating bill that week. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I didn't have to pay anything for that. So I'm like, well, I'm going to keep doing this. And so flash forward now, it's been over 12 years since we've been running Savings Angel. I've been in the media over 2,000 times. We've generated well more than $6 million in revenue. I've spent less than $500 in advertising. I just don't advertise. I believe that advertising is the tax you pay for being unremarkable. And that was actually the founder of Geek Squad who said that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't advertise, right, because again, you should pay your taxes. But if you'd like to pay less in taxes, you'd like to pay less in advertising, then go ahead and develop a persona where you just give to people and you give in every platform that you can. So it worked well for Savings Angel. We were a membership-based website where we help consumers cut their grocery bill in half. And I developed this media persona where I was the guy who could get you a deal, hookup, or upgrade on anything in life. And so that played well for those audiences. And then I started doing pro bono work in our local startup community here in Orlando. I started speaking at conferences on how I was able to do this and how I was able to get all this attention with no money spent. And so a lot of people appreciated that message. I essentially told people you don't necessarily need to hire a PR person. There's a lot you can do on your own, especially in early stages. And then what ended up happening is people started asking if they could hire me, a consultant, and I started doing that a little bit on the side, and then I got too busy. And I accidentally created a second company, Up My Influence, and that was over 5 years ago. And today we're going through rapid growth right now. Where we are able to help business owners, business professionals, entrepreneurs go from invisible to being seen and celebrated. And we do that with a lot of media, a lot of influencers, and we just know how to work that system. We're about 1/5 the cost of a normal PR firm. We're a month-to-month service. We guarantee money-back guarantee on our results. So I think because of the way that we designed everything, it's pretty blue ocean in the world of PR. Not a lot of people do what we do. And again, media placements are kind of our strongest thing. That and influencer connections and some podcast placements are kind of our strongest services.
So that's awesome. I appreciate what you do because I've been, I made a decision. I've always been pretty active on LinkedIn, and I made a decision about a year ago. And the caveat to this is that it was only a year ago. Right? You spend years and years trying to figure things out. And I've spent a lot of time branding myself within my niche, right? So within the real estate investing world and more so even in the institutional investing world. And a year ago, I made the conscious effort that I'm going to start putting myself out there more. And then it's about a year ago that I actually interacted with you. I don't know on what level, but I remember, seeing what you were doing and all of a sudden I got bombarded with people saying, hey, we'll write blogs for you. We'll do this. We'll do all that. We'll, all kinds of stuff that you kind of had to weed through it all. But I made a decision a year ago that that people, while they like, it's not about you. So people don't care, right? People don't generally care about you in general day-to-day activities, but they care about what you have to say. So they don't care about you.
Sure.
If I'm trying to advertise my company and advertise what I do, people care less about that than they're interested in my story. They're interested in what I'm doing. And I started turning on the video in my car when I was dropping my kids off from school. And that's just how I got into LinkedIn Live, actually. This is kind of the story. And I started just recording what I was doing. And what I was being a contrarian. So taking real estate, I would read these articles that people have put out about real estate data, and then I would debunk them. And many times I would call out the actual person that wrote the article.
Yeah.
And it got all this great traction, and it would literally be, this is what I'm doing today, and this is what I'm up to, and this is what I think. And it was unfiltered, unbiased, if it can be, and it was just me, not scripted. And I would add a little bit of soft production to it, maybe an intro and an outro, and a graph or a chart if I needed to there. And it got lots of great traction, to the point where LinkedIn contacted me and said, you should start doing live shows. And I'm like, whoa, live shows. And it's a little bit different, but it is about giving and about, putting yourself out there. And it was only a year ago, and how fast things progress is amazing. I mean, just becoming an authority in what you do is amazing. So I love hearing your story, because you don't, it's not rocket science, but there's a lot of work to be put into it. And so, the services you provide are so interesting to me. And I know we're going to have a conversation another time about that, because, I have a certain amount of bandwidth, and my bandwidth has been LinkedIn, but I could go further, and I just haven't had time to do that. And just doing this LinkedIn live show, trying to figure out how to book people, and the, going on your show, you're going on my show, and, doing all these different things. I mean, it takes a lot of time. And so having somebody to do that, and this isn't about, for me, like us doing this show isn't necessarily about like promoting you and getting more people to use your service. It's just about sharing the story that we have and what we're doing, and how it came to be. So it's really interesting. So what, maybe explain a little bit on why this is relevant. And I have some ideas, and I've learned in our company, and any company I go to in the future, as I kind of progress in my career, that it's not about just promoting the brand, it's about promoting the people within the brand. And so why that's relevant, and why promoting your own brand is relevant. I mean, it may seem easy for you and I, but there's a lot of people in our company who are like, LinkedIn, why do I have to go through that? Why am I having to do this? Why am I having to promote myself? And how easy it can be compared to how hard people may think it is.
Yeah. So there's a few things that I think that are going to be super relevant here. And so number one is that you have to understand, so for 12 years, I've been a consumer expert, and I've studied and led consumer behavior. 12 years ago, I was urging audiences not to believe advertising and marketing. I was urging audiences to do their own due diligence, to do their own research before engaging with a product, brand, service, or a salesperson, whatever it may be. And so, sure enough, Noel, with the fact that we do everything over the web, we have, anytime we want to know something, it's kind of a running gag now. Where if there's ever a disagreement over anything, factually, right? I'll say, gosh, if only there were a way we could find out the answer to that question. And wouldn't it be amazing if we had access to that in our pocket? We could, right. And so everybody knows that that's just what you do now. When you want to learn something, like, my wife and I are looking at Christmas trees last night. So of course, like I'm looking at reviews while I'm in the store. Like I wanted to go in the store because I wanted to see everything for myself. But at the same time, I'm like pulling these up so I can see reviews. Did the lights burn out? Because that's the problem we have with our Christmas tree right now, is the top tier of lights, they burnt out. And right. So I don't know, like I can't figure out how to fix it. I've tried, so anyway, we're replacing that. But we just do that. We read reviews. We look for third-party validation. And we'll talk about that for sure. We look at our influencers saying anything. We look for user-generated content. We look for indicators of authority. And this is huge because, and by the way, if you are a business professional, you're watching this, and you're like, well, Josh, we only sell B to G. We only sell to the government, and they're not people. Oh, BS. They're everyone's, listen, everyone, we do business. It's people to people. Like until we get to the age where it's just AI talking to AI, right, in terms of like buying everything, it's still people, my friend. And so here's the thing. We're all consumers. And so if you're B2B and you're putting these contracts together and you hope that it's just completely objective based on, the numbers, and then, let the numbers do all the communicating, there's still all of the emotional, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? Do I trust A, they're not going to rip me off, and B, are they competent to solve my problems? Well, how do people figure that out? Well, there's going to be some comfort that you can directly give them, but most of us are making all of our decisions outside of that phone call. So we will make, Noel, you know this, like even simple things like your social media profile, your headshot, your title about, who you are, your social media background image, your header image, like all of these things are part of today's modern decision-making process. And so you have to be aware of this and knowing that, Noel, we live in a swipe left, swipe right world. People are unfairly superficial in their decision-making about the value or worth of somebody, but it's what we all do. So, don't hate the player, hate the game. The game, is that
right.
The expression?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's just what we all do. And if you don't do the same thing, you're lying. I know you do it too. Like we all look at the profile image and like, does this person look competent? Do they look approachable? Do they look accessible? Like we're I'll see like billboards for attorneys, and a lot of times they always do this. One of these poses. Real estate agents do this all the time. Like they do one of these numbers, like they're crossing their arms because they want to appear confident. Like, I'm selling tons of houses.
Well,
right? It's what we all do. And so again, we have to be mindful of everything we're presenting. What we want to do is we want to lower the digital barrier, because most of all of our business is done outside of our control, like outside of our immediate control of, let's say, a 10-minute phone call or something like that. It's being done when the person's checking us out.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that was going to be my point too, is that, we're in a world without this human interaction many times. And, so prime example is I work remotely. I made a decision 5 years ago to pick my location and lifestyle over career.
Yeah.
And it actually helped my career because I decided to be happy at where I'm at. And I get a lot of people who are like, well, how do you network? I'm like, well, it's forced me to network on LinkedIn. And by networking, it's engaging. So it's not social selling. It's engaging with people, having meaningful conversations. And it's actually the same way I network. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday where it was like, what do you do when you go to a conference? How do you network with people? Do you go and talk to every single person and spend 2 minutes and try to get through it? Or do you meet a few people, have meaningful, engaging conversations, and then all of a sudden they're your advocates? I get people that contact me all the time. They were like, hey, I talked to somebody who watched your show and they thought you were interesting. And so then I checked you out. And that's why the content that we're doing now and all of that content creates that authority, and people go back and watch. There's a different video that might engage with somebody. And I did a funny video, a parody about 6 or 7 months ago about real estate investing. And it was this funny parody type of video because I watched this other guy, Brian Burns, who does these great parody videos about sales. And I emulated one of his videos, and I get people all the time who are like, that video really spoke to me. That was funny. You're a funny guy. I want to know more about you. And so you're right. I mean, you have to, people are judging and grading you constantly. And if your conversation with them is always on the phone, they need somewhere to go look and see what you're about.
Yeah. And so let me share a few things on that. Noel, you bring up some really good subjects. Number one, when it comes to one-on-one communication with a potential client, I never do just phone. Like I will always, like if they can't be on video, I won't do the call because I know that video is orders of magnitude more impactful. What we want is we want to replicate as best as we can the power of in-person. In-person is just so powerful. You can meet someone at a conference, you see them at another, like you go out for drinks or coffee or whatever, and you talk over stuff like that is powerful and impactful, and business can get done so fast in that way. it takes time. It's not, this blasting out one-to-many spam, business technique, which, again, I really hope to persuade many people out of that and back into a slow down to speed up, just like you mentioned.
Right.
Now, I will say that the other thing, Noel, you do this very, very well, is that it's really critical that you share your thought leadership everywhere and anywhere as much as you can. And you give away what other people charge money for. And you give away as high value, like give all the secrets away as best as you can. Because and you can argue and you can fight me on this if you want. And you can fight your way to, eventual stagnation in business. The world's moved on. We live in a YouTube and podcasting world. We live in a world where there's so much content, there's so much information that you either got to, kind of move along with that, or you're going to get left behind. You are not, and I'll, point out, one well-known marketer, you are not one funnel away. That's a lie. That's just a thing to sell more funnel software. You have to invest in giving value to people because they expect it. They're not going to come to they're going to click on your paid ad. They're going to see your one-page sales thing, and then they're going to give you their credit card number. Like that might happen, like Jim Carrey. So you're saying there's a chance in Dumb and Dumber, like 1 out of a million, but it's so hard to do that today. 4 or 5 years ago, it was a little easier. It's no longer easy to do that. It's very expensive, very difficult to do that. So you may as well just work with what people are expecting and make it really easy for people to spend time with you. So I studied in college, I studied family science and family therapy. And that was actually one of the research topics I did was the whole quality versus quantity time with your kids. Or with anybody.
Yep.
I know there's just a power in getting people to spend as much time as you can get them to spend with you. So that's why YouTube is so powerful. Podcasts are so powerful because you're just racking up minutes. And the more time that people can spend with you, the more they're going to know, like, and trust you. And the more that it's going to be just a no-brainer. Like I have this all the time, where people will get on a Zoom call with me and they'll say, look, I already know I'm going to buy your product. I just wanted to say hi before we get going. And, maybe they had a couple of questions or something like, to personalize it or whatever. But they're like, Josh, I've spent hours and hours and hours watching your stuff and checking you out. Like, that's the kind of thing you want to hear, because then business is just not that hard. You don't have to sell. You just be a good person, and people will naturally just treat audiences and treat people like they're smart. Treat them like, we all know we're smart, right? Audiences are just as smart, if not smarter. And they could tell exactly what's going on when you do your content. They could tell if you're just trying to sell just to get people to buy your thing. And they could tell if you are genuinely interested in them.
I agree. And it's especially on the business to business sales, because I get, people ask me, and I've talked to companies, and even with our company, it was like, well, what's the ROI on this video? It's like, well, you can't measure it, because you're creating your authority, you're creating your influence. And I did a call before this, and they actually might be watching, because I told them I had to get off the call to do this. And the first thing that one of the guys said was, one of your videos popped up the other day, and you're talking about skiing, and I'm like, yeah, because it's relative to what I do today. It was a video about what do you do to keep yourself mentally sharp. And I've chosen, ski racing and playing rugby, and some of those things is what appealed to me to keep me sharp and on my toes, and always face adversity. And that's important, I think, for people to constantly face adversity to keep yourself sharp and keep yourself in a growth mindset. It doesn't have to be adversity in job and work. It could be adversity in a sport you do, or anyway. And that right there, they were like, yeah. And then I watched your other video. And then this was, it's the other guy in the call was like, where do I find those? Because that's what you want to do. You want to see what somebody's about. And the connect with you, send you a spam, hi, I'm blah, 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 and doing this. And, without any kind of engagement. for me, all you have to do is, and this is something, and I'm curious on how you think about this, but for me, it's I find somebody that I want to get in front of. I will go then find if they are engaging on LinkedIn, I'll find something they comment on. I'll engage with them, and then I'll go and look at all their thing. Like I can tell if somebody wants to sell to me if they're good at it, because all of a sudden they're commenting on what I'm doing. And as long as they're engaging with me, when they connect with me or when they send me an email and say, hey, this is what I do, are you interested? I'm either I am or I'm not interested. So that's fine.
Right.
That's pretty black and white. But what I will do is go, oh, you know what? Yeah, I saw you made that interesting comment. I might know somebody you're interested in. And the whole reciprocal referral thing, it doesn't have to be the fact that I did a show with this guy, Adam Goer, who does multifamily syndications. We don't really have much in common business-wise, but he referred me to somebody, and it might be nothing. But the fact that he was willing to put himself out there for me, I'm his advocate. Anybody who comes to me and says they want to know about multifamily investing, I will refer to him because we had some value between each other, and it's just so important. And so, especially in the business B2B, and not even just B2B, any kind of thing. If I get one more LinkedIn connection about lead generation that is not relevant to what I actually do, those people get blocked. I actually block them on LinkedIn. And so.
Yeah, Noel, you may be fully aware of this, but the PR industry is honestly, it's really struggling right now, and it's trying to find its soul. Some of them are doing very, very well, and there are a lot of good people in the PR industry. But unfortunately, I think there's far too much, a far too big a segment of the public relations world. It's just glorified spamming. It really is. Like, and I'm speaking as a journalist for over 10 years. I get bad pitches every single day. And it infuriates me because I know that they are charging their client thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And 99.99% of those emails I junk. So why do they keep doing it? It's because spamming still works, because it's automated. I could just do an email blast. But honestly, is that the way that you want to grow your business? And, again, I think for PR professionals to evolve to the next level, I think you really need to look at the fact that influencers are not inaccessible. Journalists are not inaccessible. They're very accessible. See, back in the old day in PR, you'd pay a PR person $5,000 because they could make an introduction for you. I mean, I should know. I blew 25 grand with Savings Angel because we were doing really, really well. And we were making a lot of money with PR. And so doing it ourselves. And I thought, my gosh, what would happen if I hired a professional? Well, $25,000 later, I can tell you, I got one good introduction to a reporter, and I got to speak at a lawn and garden show. And that was my $25,000. Just in terms of deliverables, that's about it. And so there's a lot of people that have had similar frustrating experiences with that. And so again, this whole introduction business, I think is weak. And I just don't think it's sustainable. And, because, at the same time, let's say it's, Amy over at Fox 35 Orlando, who I've been working with for, 5 years. I just counted, I've done over 500 segments on Fox 35 alone as a consumer guy. I could theoretically charge someone to make an introduction to Amy. That would feel so icky, I think.
Right.
When Amy's just on Twitter, like I would say, well, just go ahead and
engage.
Yeah, right. Like be authentic. Don't sell to her. But if you find out, like if you want to be in the media, I could tell you, after 2,000 media appearances, a pitch that works today is not the typical pitch. The typical pitch I get is we just we're a SaaS product and we just launched version 2.349x of our new software and it's life-changing. It's amazing. And you should really talk about us to your readers, and it's like, it's not, as a journalist, like it's not my job to promote your thing. And I don't know. The reason that marketers do this is because they're just trying to get free stuff. It doesn't work. They keep on doing it. And I'm just telling you that if you want to win at media relations, you got to take your sales hat off. You have to take your marketing hat off, and you have to look at how can I improve the life of this person? Like, this person is an influencer. They have an audience. Like, what can I do for them? What can I do for their audience? And honestly, like, sales should be the last thing in your mind. Like, it should be there, right? But you can't lead with that, especially in your first few interactions. Like, you got to play it really cool because, and I tell people, it's like, listen, if a journalist smells sales on your breath, they're going to turn and run because they're sick of being used. No one likes to be used. So don't make people feel used. Act as a servant and ask how you can, if you could do a segment together. Like, I really am a big fan of newsjacking. I do videos about that on my YouTube channel for Up My Influence. I have a really good video on like exactly how to design the perfect pitches. And I just teach, by the way, I teach what other people sell stuff, I just give it away. Because at the end, there's always going to be services that are just simply going to require somebody's time. And that's where you would build a product or service around, just the things that aren't easy to do one-to-many.
So a lot of people that interact with what I do are in real estate. And we've got, just within our company, we have a couple hundred real estate agents. And I see a ton, people take advantage in that space so much because this happened, and I posted something on LinkedIn because it drives me crazy. There is a service you can go to that will create a news kind of spammy article for you. And I got 3 emails in a row and like tags on LinkedIn of the same article that was authored by 3 different people. So then I dug in. All I did was, it's the internet, is I cut and paste in Google search an excerpt from this article. And then I found the company that did it. And, because the first one I was like, oh, great, that's a great article. And then there were great insight about home buying or whatever. And then I got another one and another one. And I feel like they're taking advantage of these people. Yeah. So you're obviously a great resource and you give away a ton of great free information. And then people can choose to engage with you, formally if they want. Like, do you do this in tiers? Do you do, how does somebody, let's say they're an agent that wants to promote themselves more? How do you vet people before you work with them?
And I'll tell you why we do that is because unlike any other PR firm on the planet that I've ever seen, we have a money back guarantee on anything we do. I mean, we're a service provider. Our clients right now, especially our real estate professional clients, like we're landing them 5 to 10 media placements every single month. We're 1/5 the cost of a PR firm. We've got no contracts. So PR firms, by the way, listen, I want you to know I'm a friendly. Like I talk, I have some skepticism about the entire industry, but that has nothing to do with you. That just has to do with the industry. Now, you should know that about 1/3 of our business are actually other agencies. So what we'll do is we're not a full service agency. Right. We are not ever going to become a full service agency. There's a handful of things that we do really, really, really well. We crank them out. We grind them out. So if it's media placements or, done with you influencer outreach work, like that's what we do. So we'll actually white or gray label our services through other agencies. We'll actually provide PR services for PR firms' clients because we could just, deliverables are just through the roof. So they love us for that, and they can charge a fee on top of what we do. Right. It's very economical. And we actually, it's kind of funny. We actually do PR for PR firms themselves. So we're getting them media. It's funny. It's like when you go to like a social media marketing agency and you're like, okay, well, their social media is probably really good. And you look at it, it's like, okay, you've got like 80 followers on Twitter and like, we all start themselves, right? And I'm not going to fault anyone because we all start at somewhere, but like, if you've been in this game for a little while and like, you're not taking care of your own house, like you got to do that. So like, you'll see, like, I still do a ton of media. Like I still do, we are really, really mindful of our own authority. And I'm not perfect, and we still make mistakes for sure. But we really eat our own dog food, I think is the expression, right? So the services that we provide for all of our clients, they're the exact same services we do for ourselves. But yeah, in terms of answer your question, like our services range from, $399 a month up to, maybe $1,200 to $1,500 a month. And that's, we really try to make it super affordable for, earlier growth stage businesses, and a lot of, solo, practitioners or professionals that are like, listen, I really want to up my A game. I've built up this business, I've built up this practice, but I've done it mostly from behind my computer screen. I really haven't gotten out onto any stages. Our job is to get those folks out onto stages, either, physical stages or mostly virtual stages, a lot of digital news and working with influencers. But we've just gotten really, really good at it. After like 6,000 points of data, like even on like influencer outreach alone, like we have a lot of data. We know what works today. And I can tell you, I can tell you what doesn't work because we've tried it all. Yeah. We've tried every single shortcut. We've tried every single way to streamline this. And, to your point, Noel, it's, as much as we wish that we could just, drop a quarter in the machine and it would turn us into an influencer overnight, that's just not how it works. Nope. But I promise you that, what we've done is we have so much data, we can find the most efficient way to do it, but it's not going to be in a SaaS platform where you're just spamming people with this fill in the blank form. It doesn't work. Please save your money. There are plenty of software solutions out there. None of them work. They're the same things that I throw away.
So, my opinion on all of this is that, for one, you've got to put in work, right? So if you can partner with somebody like yourself or whatever and make yourself more efficient, that's great. But the outcome, the return on that is exponential, because as I'm engaged, for me, and I've been kind of figuring it out on my own, as I'm engaging with people, I'm creating relationships that will last a very long time. And I explain this to a lot of our agents, because they're working for our company, and we're giving them leads, and we're doing a lot of different things, and they're trying to promote themselves within their local market. And sometimes they're kind of like, well, it's like this little bit of pushback. And I always explain to somebody, I'm like, these relationships that you're making will follow you a very long way, and they will create career opportunities. They will create, you're going to be an advocate for them. They'll be an advocate for you, and people are going to move on in their life. And some of them are going to be longtime friends. I have people that I have had, meaningful conversations and a small amount of business with 10 years ago that are my advocate, because I'm upfront, honest, and I am, you see who I am. It's, good or bad. It is what it is. And so the result of that is you're in putting some work into it, is you're creating relationships. You and I we could do some business together. We could not. We could talk to each other 5 years from now, and we can remember that we had a positive interaction, and there's no telling what's going to happen. So that's always my, what's in it for me type of thing, and why you do this, and why you build your brand. I do think that you have to be consistent, because it kind of goes away after a while, but not the relationships you make. Continuing to move, you need to be consistent. But when you make these relationships with people, they are real, meaningful relationships. And it's just like friends. You don't have to talk to your friend every single day. You can have, a great relationship with somebody you talk to every few months, whatever it might be. So, all right. So we're going to kind of start to wrap up a little bit, but I have a question for you, because this is something I think about all the time. What influences for you when you were younger? What do you think was one of the main things that made you who you are, and why you're so driven, and why you're, it's this typical, like, end of the podcast question. Why are you doing what you're doing? And you're obviously passionate about it. You need to be passionate about what you do. It's hard to, and that's going to come across, by the way, in anything that you're doing. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you could have the best people out there getting you, media positions and doing all these different things. But if you're not passionate about it, and it's not coming through, showing from the heart, then it's going to be a lot harder, right? But when you were younger, when you what influences, what really got you to what do you think is making you the person you are today?
Yeah, for sure. I can tell you that I do have a really good work ethic. And, even when I was failing in business, and I had some businesses that, I had 6 businesses that really ultimately, eventually had to make an exit, and a couple of them were pretty bad exits. But I refused to give up. And so, I got those from 2 different places. Number one would be my dad, who, he also, he was working for somebody else, started a business with some partners that went under. And then he started his own business and kind of went independent. And that started doing pretty well. Went back to work for somebody else, continued to kind of build and kind of rise, and then eventually made an exit to go independent again. And, so that was a really good example to me that, it's like, look, I may get knocked down, but because I refuse to quit, I'm never going to fail. And so that was the first one. And then I think that message got reinforced by my military experience. So being in the Navy for 5 years, going through boot camp, it's a culture where you'll see a lot of really good business owners with military background, because what you learn in the military is grit. With Veterans Day coming up, if you have the opportunity to thank a veteran, go do so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, so the grit is one thing that it's hard to pick that up in college. Yeah, you work really hard, and, part-time jobs, you certainly work really hard. And, but in the military, you're forced to do uncomfortable things, and you keep doing those uncomfortable things over and over and over and over again. And there is zero room for failing. So you keep doing it until the mission is accomplished. So, if it's 5, 6 o'clock and I'm not done with the project, it doesn't matter if I have to stay there all night. I'm going to stay there all night. There's just no room for throwing in the towel or giving up or saying, oh, well, I tried. That is, you have to say, right. That is like so contrary to kind of the military culture. There is no, I tried. It's like you either succeed or you die trying kind of attitude. And that's actually pretty helpful for a lot of like sales, marketing, and business growth, and certainly starting your own business. And that's one thing I learned. Like I've done lots of all-nighters, and, other people do that as well. But I just refuse to quit. I refuse to fail. And so because of that, I will always find a way. And sometimes that means, again, doing very, very uncomfortable like things, like I don't enjoy this at all, but I know this what needs to happen in order for this to get done.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, for me, look, we've all had failures, right? Well, it depends on what your mindset is around those things. And there's lots of cliches you can use, but I truly believe in the growth mindset that and that you need to challenge yourself and constantly and put yourself in a position of facing some adversity, whether it's mentally challenging. I mean, look, I'm married, and marriage is a challenge a lot of times, and the upside is amazing, right? But for me, I did some sports when I was younger, and ski racing was one of them, and I continue to do that stuff where it's unapologetic. Yeah. Like if you lose all the time, and even people on the highest level of a sport like ski racing, is they lose all of the time, always. And there's having that mindset that you can keep moving past that and keep pushing and getting better. And it's not everybody against you. People don't care, right? People aren't trying, people aren't against you. It's you're inside your own head. And if you can put yourself in those positions of some adversity and overcome them, whether it's small things in life and general things, where, for some people it's working out or running a marathon or doing whatever it is, it's not just about the physical aspect of it. For me, it's about the mental side. And it's the same thing. I mean, I've had lots of failures. I mean, we could tell stories about the downturn. I was heavily in real estate then, and going to the wife and talking about how, we're moving out of this into this. It's hard. right? And these things happen all the time. So I agree with that. I mean, that's great. And, you know, having that path, and you're going to fail. And even in doing this, and, you know, I found in promoting, you have to be, you know, like how many people are watching this LinkedIn live show right now? I don't really care, because as long as one person's watching it, then it helps them, right? And that's the important part.
Made a difference to that one.
Yeah, and you know, it takes time and energy to do the thing, to do what you're going to do to be successful. I read a book, which I don't know since then how many have been written, but this was back in like 2008. It was one of the only autobiographies or biographies about Warren Buffett that he gave the blessing to. And it was a thick book. I mean, it was a couple thousand pages. And one of the things in there was that made him so successful was the ability to, he called it pulling the plug in the bathtub. So I deal with this a lot in what I do in real estate. I mean, it's, you go 150% until the last second, the last minute, and it either fails or succeeds. If it fails, you have to then put 150% into everything that you're doing, because the ones that are going to be successful, you don't know, the ones that are not. And so you have to be able to pull the bathtub and let it all out and move on. You know, it's kind of that forgive but don't forget type of thing. You have to be able to let things go and move on to the next thing, and just change your mindset and change what you're doing all the time. So very cool.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, by the way.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I love having you on. I love talking to you. And this will be some great content to use later. And I really appreciate it. And for anybody watching, best way to interact with you?
Yeah, go to upmyinfluence.com. We give away, I mean, you know, we have thousands of people that just engage with us pro bono for months, if not years, and that's great. So, I mean, from there, you know, you could tap into all of our social media, YouTube. We have a really great YouTube channel. I do 3 different podcasts. You know, we produce a lot of great content on our blog. You'll see, like we seriously give away a lot of stuff, and that's the goal, is, you know, give away what other people are charging money for. And, you know, we've got a free authority test that you can take. I've got several different step-by-step guides that will help you knock some of that stuff out. So you can handle a lot of this on your own, but of course, yeah, you know, we're always willing to help. So you can certainly grab time with me, and I'd be happy to kind of figure out what your next step is in terms of going from, you know, feeling invisible at times to truly being seen and celebrated.
That's great. It seems like that way you get people who come to you that have already put some work in, and so they know, and it's the same thing what we do with real estate investing. We like people to come to us with a lot of knowledge, and then, you know, it's easier to guide them along the way. So really appreciate it, Josh. Let's keep in touch. We'll do another show sometime. And I really, really, really appreciate it. Great talking.